Welcome, everyone. It looks like we have a good group here. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening and welcome to our EdTech series, Parent Information Night. This is number 3 in our series of information that's designed to support parents and families with supporting your children at home using their technology tools at home. And so we're here with our EdTech specialists who brought you some information about preventing the summer slide, as we call it, using our technology, our Chromebooks at home, and the tech tools that are available to students so that they can keep their minds active and learn and enjoy some fun activities while they're at home with their technology over the summer. So we are in a webinar platform on Zoom. We will open it up to Q&A at the end. So we'll just kind of present to you. And this is also live streaming on YouTube. So after we're done here, those of you who are here in the webinar, you can also access this on YouTube after the fact. And you can also access our other 2 parent information nights in this series. They're there, archived on YouTube, and what we love about that is that you're able to watch in closed captions in a language of your preference. So just to make it accessible to more folks at home. So we're happy that you're here, and you can advance to the next slide. Just a few introductions. My name is Janae Enna, and I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment here in Educational Services. And we have our EdTech specialist, Steve Harmon is the specialist for the Burnell Learning Community. Bruce Neff is the specialist for the Davis Learning Community, and Sergio Rizzi is the specialist supporting our Herman Learning Community. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Steve. Thank you once again, and enjoy the evening.
Thank you. One thing that most of you know is that students have Chromebooks that are assigned to them. We went one-to-one with Chromebooks over distance learning. So we've kept that in place, and the students all have a Chromebook that is assigned to them. It's something that they'll be able to use over the summer, as long as they're returning to the district in the fall. Do remember, please, to bring it back when they return to school in August, so that the teachers can have the students use them during the classes as well. But during the summer, they'll be available to be used as well. So that's going to be something that will be useful as for you. The only reason you would need to turn in the Chromebook is one, if it's not working or broken in some way, the IT department can repair it. And secondly, if you're leaving the school district, moving out of the area or going to another school or something like that, then you would need to return it then as well. And there's a process for that at your school site. Another thing is that if you have home internet access, that's great. If you don't and you need some, or if it's not robust enough to handle some of the classroom materials, then there are Wi-Fi hotspots that are available. The district does have some as well. You can always make an appointment on the number that's listed there, or call in. Also, the San Jose Public Library, any of them have hotspots that you can check out as well, if that's something that you're needing. So there's links for those on this particular slide so that you can access that information and be able to gain internet access at home or elsewhere if you're traveling or something like that. One of the ways that we provide access to a lot of our students is through the Clever dashboard. Clever is a company that kind of creates links between school districts and different companies that provide EdTech services. So this is one of the ways that we do this, and this is how most of the students are going to access most of the products. They should be used to this because they've been using it all year and multiple years if they've been in our district for that long. And they can access it by going up into on the bookmark bar on the Chromebooks. You'll see a little folder called Oak Grove Bookmarks, and there you'll see a link for the Clever portal. And so if you are able to get to that, then you can access any of the products that are on that particular portal. There is one caveat to that. Some of the products, if licenses run out, or if they expire sometime during the summer, sometimes they expire June 1st, then there is a possibility that some of them will not work. But I would say probably 95% of them are going to have no problems whatsoever. So you should be able to access that without any issues.
Thanks, Steve.
Bruce?
Yeah. Just also follow up on the thing with the Clever. Since we kind of ensure that that is available for the students over the summer, we technically kind of freeze it on our side of things. Basically, so whatever their experience is on the last few days of school, what they have access to there, and who their teachers are and such. That's basically how it will kind of present itself through Clever and those online platforms. So if they're getting into something like Raz Kids, if they're like, a lot of our teachers are encouraging them to continue reading with that. It's a great program to do some reading, or perhaps iReady lessons or things of that nature. Then it would be in reference to them being in their current year right now, not the year that's coming up. So just keep that in mind. Especially if you perhaps have a kiddo that's going to one of our summer programs. There's the extended school year for special ed. We have the Literacy Academy that's going on. I believe that's at Hayes. And I believe there's another one that's in regards to, maybe Ms. Anna can correct me, but I think it's the math program as well. And so if they are involved in any of those programs, and maybe they come home and they're trying to do something in regards to some of these applications on Clever, if there's some confusion as to them not being able to see their teacher the way they're normally used to, that is why that's happening. So I just wanted to kind of plant that seed for you so that you're aware. And when we return in August and they're in their new classes and such, that's when things begin to sync back up with their next year's classes. So I just want to make sure you're clear on that so there's no confusion. Yeah, so during the summer, there's a lot of things, the kids or your students and your children are engaging in a lot of technological resources and applications, and some exciting stuff that's being utilized in the classroom. Quite frequently, especially with distance learning, there's a big transition into a lot of adoption towards this, because we kind of, for a lot of us, that was the only option for many of those things. So a lot of things you might see them doing a lot of activities online on those applications you saw there in Clever. But during the summer, it's a good idea to maybe look at other things that you can do as well that are maybe outside of that normal routine of those things that are done in a classroom setting, because they're kind of used to that. And you want to kind of change things up and mix it up. So oftentimes, even outside of like doing educational apps or something, perhaps you want to go and see a movie or read a good book or have some suggestions about some content or something that you would like to, engage in that's different. So I strongly recommend, as a resource for parents, is there's a website. It's called Common Sense Media. And I'm going to switch the screen over here. So at Common Sense Media, this is just commonsense.org. And you get a variety of things that you can go to here as a parent. And what I really like about this is just the front end here. It's very current. So as you know, just over the weekend, the new Top Gun movie came out. I'm a product of the kids of the 80s. I love the original Top Gun, fabulous movie. Really excited to see it. But I have kids as well. So sometimes I ask myself, like, hey, is this something that's appropriate? They have their ratings on what they recommend when you go to movies. But what I really like about Common Sense Media is they give some reviews, and they give kind of their own age rating based on criteria that they put in place. It has to do with certain things, language and content and things. And they'll go into detail and even quote some of the language that may be used that gives it that type of rating. Another thing that just came out last Friday that I'm really into, big Star Wars fan, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So these are types of things, different media, and they have the range of it. It's not just things that are necessarily appropriate for kids, but it's like, hey, I want to go see that movie. And you're like, oh, I don't really think it's appropriate. You can go in and search for these things and see, and it'll tell you exactly what it is that they're going to be interacting with. So things of that nature, shows that you watch on, Netflix or, Amazon Prime, all that stuff. It's kind of cool. but there's also some other great things. So you got movies, you got TV, books. You're looking for a good book you want to suggest to your kids. Fantastic. Games, really good. Kids love video games. My daughters and my son actually is more so, loves playing on the Switch. So sometimes when I want to consider, well, what would be something I'd like to challenge him in or do something different, kind of change things up, they have reviews on games that you can go and check out here. It's really cool. There's apps. So if you're into like iOS, iPad app, they also have discussions around those types of things. But if you did nothing else, the parents need to know. If you're just kind of like, I'm really lost, I don't know like what I should, like discussions around things like online safety, or just looking for things that might be appropriate, broken down by age groups. So when you get to commonsensemedia.org, you just float over the parents need to know. They do a good job of organizing this. They got tons of articles. This organization has been around for many, many years, and they've got it curated a lot of great content. You could break it down by age for kids. So perhaps it's a kiddo that's, maybe third through fifth grade, and you're going in here, they got various topics of articles that may be pertinent for that age group. Talk about some summer camp stuff, some read aloud type things. You can kind of go through. I'm not going to go through all this. Like I said, there's tons of things. Talks about screen time, and you can go to the different age groups with that. They also break it down by topic. So maybe just conversation around screen time. One of those things that I get a little concerned with when my kids are home at summer is like they're going to spend their entire time sitting in front of the screen, watching it either on their phone, they pivot to watching a movie, and they're playing video games. They have really good articles that have discussion around this, that not only for your own information as a parent, but also that you can have discussions with your kids to discuss like the why, as to like why it may not be out there, what alternate activities you could do, maybe to move away from that as well. Again, I mentioned things like online safety. That's a big thing in these days when we're online. You got a lot of times when you're engaging with people through various platforms or social media and things like that, or just as simple as protecting your password. So I have a lot of articles in regards to how to do those types of things safely. And there's, again, literally hundreds more. You can look at things by platform itself. Maybe there's, again, we're talking about social media, like, hey, Snapchat or TikTok. I myself, I kind of know about it, but not nearly as much as my daughter. So if I wanted to kind of get a debrief on these things, Common Sense Media does a great job of being able to go in here and educate me in a way that I can have a conversation that makes sense with my kids and discuss those things, YouTube, Fortnite, things of that nature. So I really do like this site a lot. Another thing I do want to mention is that Common Sense Media, the content is in English and Spanish. So the vast majority of the articles are written in both languages. Some of the older ones may not be translated, but I found that definitely the current ones, they do a good job with that. And a lot of the content they provide is both in English and Spanish. You could change that on the site there. So Common Sense Media, strongly recommend that. So in regards to like, if you're thinking like, hey, the kid's going to be online and be maybe doing some things. One of the things I would recommend, and this is something that we actually do during the school year in the classroom, teachers kind of independently find times where they can fit this in, a digital citizenship, where they do actually formal lessons in the classroom. They go through a lesson plan. Common Sense Media has a great one in that regards. But there's also just some really easy stuff where they've used the ability to, I'm going to actually stop presenting real quick so I can just jump over that other side to give you a quick look at this. But they also have jump back to that slide. So basically, a good way to maybe approach digital citizenship with the kids is to find ways that maybe you can gamify it. So instead of just maybe like having discussions with them, or like, hey, you should really be safe, or hey, what did you do in class? And maybe you've already had some conversations with kids, because one of the components of the curriculum that is used by Common Sense Media, some others, is we actually have activities where they'll do something in class. There's a take-home component where they may have a discussion. So you may have already been exposed to some of these conversations, but maybe if not, but you're like, hey, I want to give my kids something that would work where they can engage in this and maybe educate themselves, but do it in a fun way, is Common Sense Media has two, they kind of gamify. They have two, they're broken down by age groups. So they have what's called the digital passport, and they also have the digital compass. Digital passport, or for the younger kids, and digital compass is for older kids. And I'll show you a little bit real quick when I switch over to the screen here to show you what that's about. A couple of years ago, Google actually launched their version of a game type thing where, again, the theme is digital citizenship and online safety, where they go into activities. It's sort of this open world, which kids really like. Instead of kind of going through this linear path where you play a specific game, Interland is where you go to various islands, and where you go there, you're engaging in activities that may be specifically themed towards maybe like protecting your identity, or securing your password, things like that. So I'm gonna share my screen again real quick, just to give you a quick preview of like, just give you a visual of what maybe that looks like, and show you those three. So the again, digital passport, you can find that via Common Sense Media. The link is also in the slide deck, so I'm sure we'll be sharing that slide deck link. It's in on all of the pages. You could get that tiny URL if you click on those images. So the this one is appropriate for grades 3 through 5. And it's, again, they basically have these activities here where you go through and you can play these games. Now, this is designed really where it's kind of can be put kind of in conjunction with teachers teaching lessons on it. And then they go through and they can play a game. However, you can get a lot out of just simply going to that site and just clicking on where you play the game. And when you do that, you'll go through this kind of fun little activities and you learn quite a bit about it. So when you click on these here, it just spins up. They could do this on their Chromebooks. And the first thing it'll pop up, I already selected it. It'll say, do you want to save your game? Or do you just want it to just forget when you left? And that's basically accepting cookies. So if you want it to automatically save the game, so you don't have to do anything, you click that and then you can play. So that's the digital passport one. The other one that's more for grades 6 through 8, that one is called Digital Compass. And then this one, similar, play now, it's going to go through and you save your game. It's all online, but it's just kind of like the way the content's a little bit more age appropriate, and just the way that they interact with that game slightly different. So those are two from Common Sense. And then another one that I really like, is kind of cool, is this Interland. So this is something that came out by Google, and it has a really kind of cool intro. Just even when they just come into this game, it's kind of fun because it goes into this like leader thing that you get you kind of excited about it, and then you spin in and you kind of build your character, and then this character kind of travels through these various areas to learn about things and about internet safety. So this one's really cool because it's a little bit more open world, which a lot of the content, a lot of the games that I see that my kids play, and to be honest myself, I like freedom of choice. So this allows you to kind of cruise around. Pretty fun. So those are definitely two things that I would definitely encourage, those types of games. So I'm going to stop that real quick, and we'll bounce back in to the next thing. So again, just in summary, in regards to, your kids are going to be online. Summer's a great time. They can get in there, have a lot of fun. With those types of things, it is self-paced, it's age appropriate. You know, it'd actually be a lot of fun if you did it with them. You might actually enjoy it. You might find that you're playing yourself. These are really good things where it's a game, but they're going to learn some really good, valuable lessons about how to digital citizenship and being safe online. So those are great. All right. So next, we're going to pivot back over to Sergio here, and he's going to be discussing a little bit about privacy and our role as how we as the district ensures your kiddo's privacy, and then how you as a parent can use some of those strategies to do so as well.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, so at Oak Grove School District, we take student data privacy very seriously. You can see that we have a student data privacy database of applications on our website. It's linked on the slide here. I'm going to go ahead and dive into that website so you guys can have a little bit of a better idea of what that can look like. Let's see here if this is going to work. There we go. Cool. So this is our student data privacy website. When you get to this website, you can learn a little bit more about what student data privacy is and what laws there are that surround student data privacy. And at Oak Grove School District, we want to make sure that before any student data is ever shared to a company, that they understand that they're going to be collecting data of students under the age of 13. So there are separate laws that they have to follow to make sure that data stays secure and doesn't get sold to advertisers and that sort of thing. And once we reach out to these companies and get an agreement on file, we log it into this database. And you can use this database a few ways. If you know an application that you're interested in having your child use, you can type the name of it in. So for example, I'm going to use Prodigy. And as I type in Prodigy, it comes back and tells me that Prodigy actually requires parent waivers. And so in this case, since you are the parent and you're allowing your child to sign up over the summer, that's going to be your decision to make. But at Oak Grove School District, we wouldn't allow any student to use that application unless we have a parent waiver on file. You can look up applications, like I mentioned, by their name, or you can come over here where the filters are on the right-hand side and just look for ones that are already approved. And if you find ones that are already approved, you can go ahead and search for those filters, and then you may come up against applications that you're familiar with or interested in. There's also other ways to sort them. So by category, by subject matter, by education level, like their grade, and then you can basically look at applications that way. Before you have your child sign up for something new, there might already be something that they have an account with or that's already approved in the district. And so this is a really nice database just to get a quick idea of applications that are being utilized or known of at Oak Grove School District, so that we can ensure the safety and privacy of your students' data whenever something is being signed up with. So that is the Student Data Privacy Database, and you can find it on the Oak Grove School District website under the parent resources. You can also find it on the link on the slide deck from tonight. I believe, Bruce, you have the next slide.
Thanks, Sergio. Yeah, so yeah, kind of getting back to a good strategy. One of the things, Common Sense Media, like I had mentioned before, is really good for finding a large variety of these applications. In fact, you'll see many of them there that you would find in our privacy database. But the big difference between what they would do on Common Sense Media, or I guess maybe what's not as diligently looked at from their perspective, is that element of data privacy. And what that is it's definitely a big deal. I mean, I'm sure you heard a lot about the importance of this online, or you know, probably just know yourselves and why this needs to be done. We being the district, or the LEA that's responsible to ensure that your child's data is protected, we are obligated to follow those laws, and we take it very seriously, as Sergio had said. So one of the things about Common Sense Media is when you go in there, it's not really, that's not really their focus. Their focus is just kind of like maybe recommending something based on its content to educate you on like what the experience might be like, but they don't really flag in that system in terms of the legality of it being used in a school setting, because they're reaching just the general community. Their context isn't necessarily being the school setting. So as you move out of that space, as I'm sure you're well aware, the parent consent for anything, that is the golden rule. If a parent consents and somebody go on a field trip, they're allowed to go on a field trip. Parents can consent to students having social media accounts in some regards, even though they're maybe not age 13. They can sign off on certain things. They can do that. So we, in the screen that Sergio had shown you before, we try to keep that as controlled as possible in regards to, if it's approved, then that means that we've engaged with that company, and across the board, everything they're doing with the data is completely safe. And we are acting as the what's called a local agent to ensure that everything's going to be fine. We go through a big process of them signing a major legal document. We work with the nation and make sure that that's all set. But that being said, there are some amazingly awesome things out there that kids like to do, that we as parents would like our kids to engage in, and then in fact is actually being used in the classroom to some extent, because it's such a good product that even though it requires parental consent to do it, we have some teachers that are willing to go and reach out to our parents, because since we can't just automatically assume that rule as the parent, 'cause it's very specific in the language of that company, we require that waiver. So a good example is Prodigy. Prodigy's been around for quite some time. Again, it's a take a look at it. It's a really fun, again, kind of gamifying math, where they're going through and you have a character and you're exploring these things and learning math. Highly involved in terms of math. And again, it's so strong. When my daughter went to Adventure, she's now a graduating senior, but when she went to Adventure, this is something that her math teacher asked for us to sign off on, allowing her to do that. And I'm like, at that point I explored and I said, yeah, that's actually really good. And so they use that as part of their classroom instruction to some degree, just supplemental as kind of a reward mechanism or something that they could go back and work on some skills on their own. And so that one was really good. So another resource, and I'll show you these sites here real quick in a second, but another great resource that's, although it's a little bit of a drive, but it's online, you're right there. Open up that Chromebook, get on the Wi-Fi, and you can do a lot of these great activities. Is Monterey Bay Aquarium. Fantastic if you're into nature and doing things with, like sea life and things like that. A lot of it's themed in that regard. Really cool site. I'll show you that. Really fun. And then Instructables is really cool. I kind of threw this one in there because, again, parental consent. But it's a really cool site if you're into, like, let's get away from the computer. I just want to go onto the computer and find something to make or build or do. Instructables is this perfect DIY kind of place. Like, hey, I want to go and do a cool thing where I make a little rocket thing that's going to launch with whatever. You think about it, like I'm going to design using some stuff in my garage, a little catapult thing. Really cool stuff. So I want to show you those three really quick. I intentionally pick something more educational, something more get out there and do things with nature, and then something that's just literally maybe get away from the computer. So I want to show you those three sites real quick. There is, first off, I had mentioned Prodigy. Some of you may already even be familiar with this. Perhaps there was a parent waiver that went home and your kids already engaged with this. If not, take a look at it. The free version of it is fantastic. It's really good. We never had to pay anything for it. My daughter was engaged with it for quite a while. I will be honest, I haven't been here in a while because, again, my daughter's a senior, but it looks like they have Prodigy English. That's interesting because back in the day, it was always Prodigy Math that my daughter always engaged with. So I'm actually really curious that that's something else that's on there. So again, this is something when an account gets created, this is where there will be a point where you as the parent would have to kind of like check a box, or typically what it does, it sends you an email. If I recall, when my daughter does, they had to include the parent's email. It sent me an email, and then I went in and I accepted and said, yes, it's okay. So that's kind of how that mechanic works if you do it online this way. Another great site, the Learning at Home from Monterey Bay Aquarium, pre-K through 12, covers the spectrum. Science related, a lot of really cool activities you can do. Crafts, again, just things you could print, get away from the screen and do at the table, doing your arts and crafts. Just online courses as they want to go through, maybe have that kid. I remember when I taught fourth grade at Santa Teresa, there was a student I had that loved like otters and stuff. So I'm sure I probably could have directed them in some direction to do some activities here. And they're just kids that just like animals, and go in there and check it out. Video lessons they can learn. These are in English and Spanish. I don't know to the degree what the content for the materials are, but the video lessons are in English and in Spanish. So another reason why I chose this particular site. And again, if you like the ocean and that type of theme, really great place. You can sign up for this kind of thing. So again, highly recommended. I won't go too much farther into this. I heard a lot of good things about that. And then the final one that I like, because I love doing things myself. I mean, check it out. He doesn't want to build a speeder bike. I mean, maybe that's a bit expensive, but Star Wars, that's just awesome. If that's the opening scene, it's got to be good. So again, it's like a makerspace. Like, if you're into this, like I want to make things, this would be a great place to check out. They just have a variety of projects throughout here. These are just featured projects that are on here. Varieties of things you can do involving electronics, like crafty kind of things, jewelry. It's kind of like, it makes me think a little bit of like Pinterest, but like with instructions how to do it. So it's kind of cool. It makes it fun. But again, if your kid's getting in there, dioramas, if my kids were younger, I would totally rope them in. My daughter's like ready to go off to college right now, so I probably won't be able to convince her to do this with me. But I don't know, maybe Hayden will help me out. So I mean, just look at that chair. Maybe that's a little extensive. I don't think I could ever do that. But yeah, and you don't get overwhelmed. There's just some really fun stuff. Again, the way they break this thing down, things are made step by step, and you can kind of do searches through these projects and look for things based on what they're kind of looking for. So again, Instructables, really cool site. A lot of fun, maybe a chance to get away from the computer and actually do something physically. Would suggest that. Let's see here. I don't think, that may be, sorry. Step out of that, I think. So yeah, so just in summary, just to kind of review what my idea here is that, we do provide in the classroom a lot of things. The summer, I feel, is an opportunity for us as the parents to engage them in things perhaps that we don't have the means at the school to do, because maybe it requires some other things. So Maker Camp, thank you. Somebody else there, it's a maker, is looking for some great suggestions. I love hearing suggestions about things. To get out there and do different things that try and get them away from the screen and get out in nature and do some fun stuff. So if you can find ways to do that, if you're uncertain, Common Sense Media is a great place to do a little bit of some reading to understand where it's coming from. Gives you some great suggestions. Maybe they want to get into watching a series on Netflix and they're binging all summer. At least you'll have an idea of what they're binging. So you can go in there, you can check it out and go, yeah, maybe not that one, but maybe this one. So good resource and perhaps some fun things to do. So I think we're good there. We're going to move on to maybe some additional general sites as well.
Yeah, some additional digital resources. So we've also curated a list here of some other websites on top of the ones that Bruce has already mentioned. Code.org should be available through this student's Clever dashboard. And these are coding lessons that begin at pre-reader level all the way through college level coding courses. And it's self-paced, so you can kind of pick a track and continue pushing yourself and advancing, learning how to code. It's pretty neat stuff. Khan Academy is available in all sorts of different subject matter. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And so here's the Khan Academy list of courses, and you can see that's, between math and science and arts and humanities, reading, language arts, life skills, economics, test prep, even it's got a lot of stuff. So you can pick a specific grade level for math and continue to self-pace yourself through that. And also, I believe we have mentioned the Internet Awesome and Common Sense Media when Bruce was showing those two slides, and those are both really good resources as well. PBS, for parents and for kids, they have different ways to do activities at home, similar to what Bruce was showing with the Monterey Bay Aquarium and the Instructables. They have different activities that you can look into, and they do have both English and Spanish as a choice here when you pick your website. So you can go ahead and filter activities down by age or by shows or by topics. And sometimes if your child is really into a specific show or something like that, you can find themed content so that they are learning while still seeing their favorite character kind of engaging through the story or through the activity. And so you can look through there for the PBS Kids activities, also linked in the slide deck. I believe the next slide that we're going to take a look at is the resources from the public library, and I do have some of those links pulled up here. So the San Jose Public Library has a whole section for kids, and they have help in like tutoring help and homework help. They also have a different reading section and other events that they have in person. So there's a schedule of events where you can visit your local library, and then there's other games and things recommended for them there. As we had mentioned at the beginning of tonight's webinar, there are hotspots available as well. So there's access to the internet, both in the library and something you can check out called an internet hotspot, which will give you internet connectivity at home or on the road if you're traveling during the summer and you still want to make sure your students are connected. Some of the things that they can use that internet hotspot for are also the San Jose Public Library learning resources. There's other things here for students and for parents to skim through. And then there's access to ebooks and movies and audiobooks. So the public library does have access to watch movies and listen to books and check out electronic books as well. So that way, even if you are not going to be home all summer and you are doing a trip, or you're going to be bouncing between grandma's house and daycare, you can still see that there is plenty of activities for your child to be involved in through the public library. And in person, they also have these summer learning camps and activities that you can do to read and learn prizes. And there's different apps you can download to track your reading over the summer, and some prizes the students can earn for meeting their goals and so on. So that is all available through the San Jose Public Library. An additional community resource is through the Santa Clara County Office of Education, and they have curated a really nice list of resources as well for reading and writing and math and history and science, etc. So virtual field trips are there. Arts and activities are there too. One that I did not put a link to, but it's not something that's very hard to find, is if you go to the local zoo websites for like the Oakland Zoo or the San Francisco Zoo, they often have interactive activities there, and they have live webcams for you to watch the animals and engage with some of the zookeepers that way as well. But we didn't put a link, but that isn't something too hard to Google, hopefully, if you look up your the local zoo. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. I believe the next slide is our Q&A slide.
Okay, thank you so much. So they spent some time talking about our district resources. We spent some time talking about outside of the district resources, some learning activities, some activities just for fun, and a little bit about common sense media and digital citizenship and resources for parents. One of the reasons why we emphasize the digital citizenship piece, and you could see from some of the presentation that we do have quite a bit of oversight within our district in terms of what students have access to. We do have very strict data privacy policies, as well as firewalls and things in place so that students don't have access to any inappropriate content. But we do teach and reinforce digital citizenship here at the school sites, as well as monitor student use on the internet, because we want students to be safe and we want to teach them how to be safe online. So when they're at home with their devices, while we have these things in place, if they're not supervised or they're not monitored, especially if they're interacting with other people on the internet through different platforms, it's really always highly recommended that students are supervised and monitored at some degree, depending on their age. And so we wanted to spend some time with that. When they're online with their Chromebooks and they have access to Clever, and those are all of their learning apps that they use at school, they have that through the summer. Just remember that some of the app recommendations, for example, iReady, it's recommended that students spend about 45 minutes a week in each of the different subject areas, so reading and math. So 45 minutes a week. It could be a little bit more than that, but much more than that, research shows is not statistically significant in terms of improving their learning. So just something to keep in mind, about 45 minutes a week, and probably a similar amount for some of these other learning apps. Of course, you don't want to spread that out across 5 days and have them get on for just a little bit of time every day, because sometimes lessons take a little bit longer to pass. So we have Dreambox, we have other tools for them. Even typing, they can practice their typing. So we want to spread it out, and we know that balance is best. And that's what Bruce was talking about, getting engaged in some online fun and just keeping their minds active, keeping their minds strong, but also balancing with outside activities and other activities that can feed them in their minds over the summer to keep them active and ready to come back to school in August. So just to kind of wrap up those points for everyone, we do have time for Q&A. So, so we have the chat open. Also, we as panelists can bring you in if you want to ask a question to the group with your voice. That works too. And then also, if you have any questions that you don't think of right now, or you don't want to come put it in the chat, you just want to ask later, you can email edtech@ogsd.net, and one of us will respond to you. So I want to thank you guys for being here. We have time to stay on with you and answer your questions.
While we're waiting for questions as well, one of the things I forgot to mention, even though at Common Sense Media, the content there's in Spanish and English, but the games, all three of those digital citizenship themed games that I referred, those I chose specifically because they are available in both English and in Spanish. And I believe the Google one is also Arabic and Portuguese if you're interested.
All right, we did have a question in the chat who asked if we'll be able to get the links that are presented. She was driving. And so what we'll do is we'll send out a Parent Square message that links the YouTube. So for those who missed tonight, for the the YouTube, and as well as the presentation, and all the links are there. And then we also appreciate Elise, who shared also the Maker Camp link. And then why are we not translating in Spanish? It's thank you for asking that. It's because on YouTube, we're having translation in closed captions, but I appreciate the comment, and a Spanish translation parent information night. We can definitely make that happen. Great. Any other questions? All right, well, we'll stay on. And if you don't have any questions, we will see you down the road. Have a wonderful summer with your children, and enjoy having the technology, the Chromebooks at home over the summer. And we'll be here to answer any questions, but otherwise we'll see you soon.